So The Last of Us has finally completed its first season, the show that took the world by storm, a beloved video game adapted so perfectly or near perfection as people sing its praises, whether it's the gamers or non-gamers. So I'm here with this video to talk about some of the 10 most shocking and emotional moments in this first season. But before that, I have a video out there on the channel where I compare some of the scenes, the differences and the dialogue from the 9 episodes to the video game. So I hope you check that video out as well. Now let's dive into this one. At number 10, we have the torture scene in episode 8. This horrific, brutal scene comes about when Ellie is kidnapped by David and his men, mostly David, whilst Joel is injured, and her last words to Joel was to fight and stay alive. And so he does. He endured and survived, taking down one and then capturing 2 men to interrogate. And this was when we saw the Joel that people have been talking about, the ruthless killer that people have been referencing since episode 1. And of course, this scene was taken exactly from the game with a little bit of tweaks here and there, but nonetheless, it was still Joel on a mission to go and save Ellie and to get whatever information he needed. And in the show, we saw the more brutal side of him. At number 9, we have Joel breaking down to Tommy in episode 6. This was one of the most emotional moments in this season. For us, the viewers, we know that Joel has been going on living, but not living at the same time due to the trauma and pain that he experienced when his daughter passed away. So from the start, he has always cut people off except for Tess, which was even a middle ground, whether they were on and off. He just didn't let himself feel enough. But when he finally meets his brother, that is when he unloads and unpack everything that he's been feeling, all the trauma, all the pain, all the nightmares. And man, did Pedro Pascal really kill this role and this moment. In this moment, we saw the more vulnerable side of Joel, mostly due to the impact of Ellie, him starting to feel for her and see her as his daughter that he lost. And at that moment with his brother, that is when he just let everything go. He opened the safe where he kept all his pain and his trauma in. Now at number 8, we have Joel getting injured in episode 6. Like, for those who haven't played the game, this was a shocking moment for them because up till now, that is the episode 6, most of the characters that we followed have either died or left. So when this moment came about, Joel getting injured, and they framed it in a way that made it seem like this guy is dead. For gamers, we knew that it was part of the story in the game, but for non-gamers who have stayed away from all spoilers, this was a massive jaw opener because then it got them thinking, is Joel really dead? I mean, he might be. Maybe he isn't even the main character. Maybe Ellie is, and the story is now going to follow Ellie. That tells you how amazing the story is, where it makes you question every single move and every single ending. A movie or a show that is unpredictable is one of the best qualities that elevates it overall. Next, at number 7, we have Tess's death in episode 2. This was, calling it shocking and sad or unfortunate is just a mild understatement. We followed this character from episode 1, the show framing her and Joel as this dynamic duo who have been through thick and thin, and that the story is going to follow these two and Ellie on their mission to get this girl where she needs to go among their own journeys as well. But this idea by fans was just stripped, and we got the first taste of the world of Last of Us. Nothing is permanent, and the characters that you see and you think may go on the hero's journey and follow and root for them throughout the show may be gone quickly like smoke in the wind. That's what happens to Tess, who even after just 2 episodes became a fan favorite. That did not stop her fate as she was infected, decided to sacrifice herself to buy time for Joel and Ellie to escape the infected horde. At number 6, we have Ellie killing David in episode 8. One of the most brutal moments in this episode, most emotional and tragic when it comes to Ellie's story and her path and her journey in this entire show. When we were introduced to David, he gave off that vibe of this guy could be good, judging by the words he was saying and his demeanor, and he just gave off an eerie feeling like he was bad news. True to that, we found out that this guy was a cannibal, a predator. He was just a sick human being, and what he wanted to do with Ellie, of course, if not get his way with her, was to make her into Ellie burgers or Ellie stew. And that's when Ellie started chopping him up. It was a moment to scream at your screen saying hell yeah. But as it continued, it was just left with sadness, shock, and feeling bad for Ellie due to the trauma and nightmarish moments that she's having that is going to scar her for life. At the 5th spot, we have the infected horde rampage in episode 5. This is where most of the budget went into. Clearly, it was intense, it was crazy, it was horrific. This was the first time that we saw so many infected on screen at once. And of course, the icing on the cake, our first bloater. This is where Joel showed his S-tier Call of Duty skills in our first child clicker. Like hell nah, I'd rather take a regular sized one than this agile, fast, Chucky-sized killer. At the 4th spot is Henry and Sam's death. Talk about tragedy, talk about sadness, talk about emotional damage. The episode that got people thinking like never get attached to any character, especially ones that we meet. Henry and Sam were the typical brothers, typical people who were trying to survive in this cruel world. What's even more unfortunate is Sam being deaf. Now such, Henry has to be extra careful and extra protective. Just when all the things that they've been through seem like a thing of the past and they were gonna go on this new journey with Joel and Ellie, we found out that Sam had been infected, and the next morning, that is when all hell broke loose. Sam was on Ellie trying to rip her apart. That was when Henry took his own brother out without even realizing what he just did. It was, some may call it instinct, to save another person's life, but that was when he realized that his little brother is gone by his own hands, and he decides to also off himself. What's more tragic about this whole thing is that Sam is just a little kid born into this unfortunate dying world and went too soon without able to actually live in it. And then we have Ellie and Joel also being scarred from this experience. All in all, this scene was just crazy to watch. The actors did phenomenal, each performance capturing the soul of the character from the game, whilst adding more to it. At number 3, we have the outbreak scenes in episode 1. This was the start of everything, the start of the end of the world, and I believe it was captured so perfectly from the game. And the thing about this scene and stories is how scary it is, considering that this is something that can be compared to our real life, considering that we all went through COVID. Yeah, it was not infected or zombies or whatever. When you think about how our world could literally end just like this, how a normal functional society be brought down on its knees by nature herself. That is just horrifying to think about. One of the best parts of this scene is capturing the intensity and the viewpoint of a select few characters instead of going all around to different places, trying to capture, the spectacle of the whole thing. It was intense, it was spine-chilling. The camera work and music just all came together to tell this horrifying piece of story. At the 2nd spot, we have the hospital scene, Joel killing all the fireflies in episode 9 to rescue Ellie. For starters, this is just a divisive scene online at the moment, and it's one of the most shocking and crazy moments from this season. After Joel learns that the process of creating a cure using Ellie will result in a death, he decides to go John Wick on everybody, all to rescue the daughter that he doesn't want to lose again. For us, the audience, even though we root for Joel, we know this is a selfish reason, and Joel is essentially dooming all humanity. Now, at the first part is Sarah's death in episode 1. This was the game changer. This was the moment our main protagonist, Joel, is changed forever. As little time that we got to spend with Sarah, she was a fun, innocent kid who had this beautiful relationship with her father, and then the world is turned upside down and this tragedy happens. And it's sad because on one hand, you understand the soldier and the superior because the girl could be infected, but the father is trying to conceal it because it's his daughter. He's going to be protective. And on the other hand, you feel like these people who are supposed to protect the civilians aren't trying so hard. They're trying to just eliminate every threat, even with the little evidence that they have. That is when we have this heartbreaking moment that just redefines the show and the character going forward, and it becomes the central theme in this story. Loss, main dish, with grief and trauma as its dessert. Now, if you're a gamer, this scene was obviously lifted from the game, and even with that, without the amazing performances of these actors, it wouldn't be as impactful as it was in the game. Some people maybe prefer the game, some people may prefer the show, but one thing is for certain, the performances were on point. I have a couple of bonuses, and one is Joel and Ellie reuniting in episode 8 after Ellie kills David. The moment that Joel officially opens his heart to her, calling her baby girl just like he did with his own daughter. The second bonus is the argument scene between Joel and Ellie in episode 6. This was a very intense and heart-sore moment to see these two characters who clearly care about each other in the middle of this. Third bonus is Ellie and Riley's moments in episode 7. This was a cool way to see Ellie's backstory and to see some of the losses that shaped her. And for our last bonus, that is Bill and Frank in episode 3, for them to actually change the character that we barely knew in the game into this fleshed out human being, along with Frank, who we didn't even see in the game, and in this beautiful love sad story of theirs. Now that's it for the video. These are some of the crazy, emotional and shocking moments from this season. Of course, there are other moments, but these are clearly the highlights. Season 2, yeah, for sure is going to rip people's hearts out. Now do let me know in the comments below what you thought of this season as a whole and which was your top 5 moments from the show. And I have a video on the channel comparing some of the scenes, the dialogue and the differences between the episodes 1 to 9 versus the game. So I hope you check that video out as well, alongside a lot of entertaining videos as well. Now if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell not to miss any new video. As always, Nerdy Sage here. See you guys in the next one.